How's it going, everyone? We're going to continue along with these keys here and lay them out proportionately, sort of fill out the space properly. We might have to do some adjustments to this frame here, but nothing too groundbreaking. From there, probably slap in the space bar, and then if we have time, we'll attempt to sort of do a couple of these or get like a general idea as to how we're going to lay these out. Yeah. We'll connect them in a later part. I think it's just like getting the end pieces set up, and then the middle pieces have a lot more constriction as to how they're put together. So it makes sense for me to do it this way. This is a really good time to start using this 3D guide that we found online. So even though the scan is a little bit muddied for some pieces like the interior and the back, and the bottom is not the greatest scan. This is good for at least letting us see the layout of the keys, so we can see that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 main keys. I'm not going to include any of these like weird one-off keys or larger keys. We'll get those in a bit, but this is a really good reference for sort of checking out our spacing. They all seem to sort of go down in steps. I can't tell, it doesn't really seem like it's the exact same. Like the space between these two seems a little bit different, but I think the smaller ones are relatively even in how they're going down. So I know I have another reference around here for just the keyboard. These guys are doing a pretty good job. Yeah, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and this is the 11th one. 11, yep. So I think I'll probably, there's so many different variations of the keyboard. Trying to think of the best one to go off of. I think the 3D scan probably, and then this will just be sort of a more of a spacing indicator. So it's going to be kind of hard to do this with just recording one screen. Like, this is why I ideally like having a second monitor, but I suppose we can still do it this way, hopefully. So we have the 11. They're pretty close up. If we're going off of height, they seem to be a little bit higher than this bar here. But at the same time, I feel like we may have raised this a little bit too high at the end of the last part. So I do want to go back and fix that just by grabbing these end pieces and just sort of toning it down a little bit to match this a bit more. Not a ton, but something kind of more akin to that. And then we can sort of select these guys. If you remember, we put them in groups, so I'm just selecting them out of the outliner here. And everything's kind of off-centered a bit. So this first row, everything's pushed to the right. I think our top view would probably be pretty appropriate for this. It does kind of seem like there's a bit more space, and these are even like a little bit smaller. So I might want to actually relay these out. A good indication of how much space we have is it seems like there's one here and there's one here. So currently we have the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. They're about 12 wide. And right now we can't currently fit 12 because we have 11. So what I'm going to do is similar to how we did this in the last part. First of all, I'm going to start by deleting these guys. We don't need them. Create polygon primitives and cube. And we want to be able to fit 12 across, right? So let's sort of make a makeshift ruler where I snap this to the inside here. Snap this to the inside here. And we're going to add 12 cuts in the middle to sort of place these guys along. Yep, so I'm going to go to Insert Edge Loop Tool. I think 12 because we want the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yep. Okay, so we should be able to fit that. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, they're definitely a lot more snug. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Nice. This is a pretty good ruler to have, so I'm just going to thin it out and sort of keep it right here. What do we have on this hidden layer again? We can probably delete that. I'm going to add this actually to our hidden layer just so I can quickly turn it on and off for reference. Okay, cool. So we have 12 of these guys, but we know from our reference we only need the 11 here, and then this one is kind of raised up a little bit. Seems to be raised up, yeah, higher than this connection piece by a pretty decent amount. Kind of like so. I also think all of these should be raised a little bit as well. So we're looking at something like that. This one is also a little bit different. I don't know if it's scaled differently or just a different color. It does seem to be a bit smaller all around actually. So I'm just going to grab the whole group. I'm going to put the pivot of it at the bottom because I want the bottoms of these to all stay flush. But then just scale it down. Freeze transforms. Let's scale it down to like 0.8 of what it currently is. So it's noticeably smaller, but still reasonable. Okay, we got that. First row done. We'll probably have to mess with the spacing on everything a little bit as we sort of go through all of this. Next row, what are we working with? So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, but they're kind of shifted to the left. So we have the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we'll take these 10. We're going to duplicate them. Freeze transforms, delete history. And this is where we kind of have to figure out how much we're going to be moving them by because we want to repeat that. So there's a decent amount of space between them, about like that much. And then how far down do they go? That space seems kind of correct. A little bit lower maybe. But yeah, so we only have 10 of these now. And on top of that, we do have to shift everything to the left and make another one on the right side. So let's shift it all. Actually, we should remember these numbers. So minus, sorry, what am I doing? Minus 1.7 and minus 3.469. I'm going to take a screenshot of this. I'm going to put it into our PureRef board so I can remember this for later. But essentially with these guys, I can freeze transforms and delete history now. And then let's just say we'll shift everything over like one key space. So if I move my pivot up here to this key and I snap everything over to the next key, we know we evenly moved everything over one key space. But we don't actually want that because if we just move it all, it's going to be even. So we kind of want to move it like half a key space over. So I think eyeballing it in this case is a pretty good idea. So I just kind of want this to be in the middle, which is 0.16 or 1.6 rather. I'm going to save that here as well so I remember it. And now we do have to duplicate this guy over. I'm going to do the same technique I showed you before where instead of measuring the exact distance, I can move my pivot to the one beside it, duplicate this, and then if I snap this pivot to the one beside it, this space will be the exact same as this space. So that now gives us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 pieces. So we're still on track with this. There's this weird one here. We should still have room for that. It seems like the next row has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 as well. And maybe it's just the angle, but they kind of seem smaller or offset in a weird way. Because these two are right on top of each other, these two are right on top of each other, but these two are at like a diagonal. They have it similarly set up here, and then in other references, it's like, so we have the number row, and this next row. Now they're offset. I'm going to just continue that way. So this side's to the right, this side's to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So there's 12, but one of them is kind of like a weird middle one. Okay, let's duplicate these guys and use these numbers. So freeze transform, so we're starting from scratch. We had to translate y negative 1.719, and then we had to translate along the z-axis as negative 3.469. Okay. We then, of course, want this to shift this way a little bit. I believe this row is hanging right, hanging left, hanging right. It's just these side ones that keep messing it up because they're all different. Because this one is hanging right, hanging left. This one, yeah, has to be hanging right. So I'm going to move my pivot here, and I'm just going to snap it to this pivot. So that should be good. When looking at this guy though, there's like this mystery key in here, which we can be able to make pretty quickly. The cool thing about this one is it's not really either of the heights, so I'm just going to kind of put it in the middle, kind of like this. Okay. Let's see now, next row. 1, 2, 3, this would be the final row. Right, left, right. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 normal ones. Ten of these guys. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. We don't need this last one. Control duplicate. Let's do the transition numbers that we put in our reference. So y, of course, is minus 1.719, and z is minus 3.469. And it seems based on this reference that it's all shifted right, but since there's only 10, it's still kind of in the middle. So we wrote down the number for when we put it in the middle. We're going to end up shifting it 1.6. And this should, yeah, give us the same layout here because we still have space for a large one here, and we have a space for a large one here. This was this one included? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yep. So we just need to add these two big ones on the side. Let's take a look at this guy. Seems like there's a lot of space here, but this side's a bit more claustrophobic. So I guess that still lines up with what we got. And then as far as the heights, the heights seem to be level. So let's take this group and control duplicate, put it over here. Move our pivot to the bottom middle so we can scale it but still have everything level. And let's say we scale it. The reference looks like it's about 50% bigger, so 1.5 should do the trick. And it actually seems like it's even more further off. I might even just snap it to be level with this guy. And then on this side, we have one that's slightly bigger as well. Center pivot, freeze transform, delete history. So I'll duplicate this guy. Kind of seems like the spacing is mostly the same. So for this guy, I'm actually going to do our pivot trick of snapping it to the one beside it. Snapping the whole thing over. And from here we can grow it and put the pivot down here. It doesn't seem like it's too much bigger, so I might just make it like 20% bigger or 25% bigger. Freeze transform, delete history, but yeah, scale maybe 1.25. And then I kind of want to squish it all down. So if we're looking at this way, compared to how this is set up, there's some things I'm liking a lot, and there's some things that definitely need a little bit of work. I think this guy should be higher. I think altogether the keys could be a little bit deeper, like go further down. The space bar will probably fix a lot of the spacing issues that I'm thinking, but I also feel like they're all a little bit larger maybe. Let's continue working on this. I want this guy to be bigger and a bit further off. Yeah, I think they all need to be, what is this guy? He's just in the middle of all these groups. Let's just deselect that. I think we have to make them all a little bit taller, which is going to be kind of a nightmare, to be honest. Actually not. If we center the pivot on all of them, it's going to work pretty easily. So I'm going to make them all a little bit taller. Maybe 1.35. That seems to be helping a little bit. And then I want to try something. I don't know if this is going to work. All of them selected. If I go to no, I don't think I can do that. Like grab the vertices and scale them, but I should be able to scale them independently like this and make them all a little bit larger along the Z and X axis. Just because I'm looking at the reference and there seems to be less space between them all. There's still a decent amount of space, but maybe not that much. Okay, what else? I think I may have made them a bit too tall. I kind of want to pull them all a bit forward. Just to fill up the area a bit more. And then all of it a bit lower. that's the other thing. I think the height is something I didn't put a ton of thought into. Like these guys are a couple, like 2 centimeters above where this connects. Now, does that line up here? Kind of, but they could definitely afford to be a little bit lower. It's more like that, right? So let's do it this way. We're gonna grab each row and bring them down a little bit. So we'll select all these guys and maybe lower it minus 0.2, and then we'll deselect the top group and repeat. So we'll make this minus 0.4. And then we'll make this minus 0.6, so there's gradually more spacing between everything. That fills up the area pretty nicely. This guy is supposed to be in the middle. Can definitely raise up that group a little bit more. Pull it forward. The smaller one, we could probably either raise it or lower it. I'm going to raise it because I like the idea of having this sort of arm sticking out and being a lot more visible. This guy, I'm actually going to pull him out a little bit more this way. Looking at the reference, it seems to be like an arm comes out like this, like cranks out. This one can probably be afforded to be pulled back a little bit and off to the side. I'm just thinking about spacing. And the only ones we can really mess with are these like weird oddball ones. This guy, he's a little bit too close here. So I'm going to scale him down a little bit, pull him back so it's a little bit different. And this one actually seems a little bit too level, so I need to make it more clear that it's in the middle. And that should do it. Let's go ahead and get the spacebar in there. Get this guy out of here. Yeah, the spacebar seems to be something that should be a lot easier to just straight up visualize. This is also a great reference for the bottom. It's a different type of typewriter, but still gives us a good idea as to what's going on and how all this is connected, like these little tabs and how the arms work. Good view of the bottom of the spacebar. But the spacebar itself, there's a couple different renditions of it. This is kind of the most common one, where it's this like swept up curve that comes down like that. So I'm going to be going for this style, and we're just going to get it into place. Just making sure I'm happy with this overall. Looking at the scan. I think this front part can be thicker, which is probably important before I start getting the keyboard in here. I guess I should probably just pull it out this way to not cause any issues. Add some bulk. But yeah, let's start with a cube. I feel like something's off a little bit with the spacing here. I'm going to make sure that there's proper spacing between everything, snap this face to here, and then snap this face to the very end of that. Am I okay with this thickness for this piece? well, we're going to have to thin it out a little bit and then extrude it across roughly to have these amount of spaces, something like this. It does feel a little claustrophobic, so what I am going to do is pull this all forward a bit. Like so. I think we definitely could use the extra space. No pun intended. And then yeah, let's see like the height on this guy. It's coming up a little bit. It seems like the bottom is kind of in the middle of this raised area. This also seems more raised after looking at it a little bit more. Something like that. This can be a little lower. But yeah, let's get the bottom to be where I said it was, where it's kind of in the middle of here. And then the top seems to be resting kind of at the bottom of these keys here. Maybe a little bit thinner. But the shape itself should be pretty straightforward. I'm going to add a cut to the middle, add a bevel to that so it splits into two evenly spaced pieces. You can select both of these guys and scale them evenly apart. I'm just trying to create these lines here. Seems to be about this far away. At this point, it has these guys sort of push forward. And then these end pieces come down. In fact, I think I'm just going to cut this guy in half and we'll do symmetry because there's a bit more stuff we have to do to this. Going to add a cut in the middle of here. Have more of like a soft transition in. Same with here. And then I'm just going to go and bevel it. It's going to harden these edges. Something seems a little bit weird about them. There we go. Yeah, that's more or less the shape we're going for, especially because when we smooth it inside a ZBrush, it'll soften all of that out. I want to get a view of the bottom of it. So it is kind of like a solid piece, but it has these connectors, and then it connects to the front in kind of like a weird way. We also have some stuff going on here with like bolts and how this is sort of connected. But yeah, I guess these bolts are part of the actual arm, so we'll get to that at a later point. These guys, though, are a little bit different. It seems like in all the references, let me find a better front one. It has like little arms that are actually tucked into this guy. So we're going to have to factor that in. Let's mirror this guy back over. Merge vertices. We can afford to make it a little bit thicker. And then I'm even going to round the top super subtly. Give that a bevel. But yeah, the bottom has these little connection pieces that slots into here, which we can only really see from the bottom. Like they all sort of have it present. Where was our main reference again? Somewhere right here. So in this case, it looks like they're right here and right here. They kind of slot into some sort of opening. which should be pretty quick to make. We're just kind of making holes and slotting it in. So I think we should be able to do that in this part. Just want to find a better front view angle of that, because it's slotting into where it's raised up, which makes me believe I need to shrink this in a little bit, because it raises up and then these guys go down. Actually, it's coming in from the lower pieces, so I'm gonna bring those guys back out. Bring these guys in a little bit. Okay. Maybe squish the height a little bit. But yeah, it's kind of just sticking in there. Let me try and figure out exactly how that's being done. We have these little clamps, metal going through, and that's sort of like, it's very odd. It seems like this one's going directly in, but then there's these two. I think this one might just be something entirely separate, and it's these two red parts. In which this would be lower. Right? I need to find a better reference for that, because there's some weird stuff going on there. Yeah, so these are the red pieces that are going right in, but then there's also something on this side. Something right there. There and there. So it does seem closer to the end. That one reference just had a bunch of weird stuff going on, I think. Like, it doesn't seem like those red pieces are present anywhere else. This is a good reference for it. So there's one here in the middle, and there's one here kind of near the end. So they're not really symmetrical. We have one closer to the middle and one right before the dip. So I'm going to be using this as my reference. As far as positioning goes, let me just screen cap that. And then, excuse me. Let's find that bottom picture again. And this will actually show us what exactly is going on down here. I'm imagining it's this one here is more what's happening. The red one doesn't seem to be present anywhere else. All right. We'll use these two guys as our reference. Kind of makes me want to thin it out a little bit, or maybe just lower it and pull it back. We're gonna have to sort of make some sort of opening with some bolts screwed down, and same with here, some sort of opening. Seems bizarre to me is like this whole area seems a little weird. Because it seems like this is so much higher up almost. I suppose I could do something like that. Man, I wish this 3D scan had a good like bottom. What exactly is going on down there? Because yeah, this is like resting up against the middle of it, but it seems like it's connecting in the bottom. So what exactly is going on? This is actually like a perfect reference. Okay, nice. So it looks like in the middle, these two pieces are connected normally, and then on the end there's an additional connection piece because this bottom kind of hollows out. Okay, I'm gonna go off of that. So we're not quite done with some of these pieces. We'll have to shape them a little bit better, starting with the spacebar. We're just gonna hollow them out, so Control E. Bring in a shape like this, extrude up. Has like a subtle piece bridging across. So let's go ahead and make that. I'm gonna bevel this maybe to like a 0.05, 0.03, and then just delete these faces here. And extrude these two down. Merge all the vertices, fill the hole. So now we kind of have that middle dividing piece. It's super subtle, but you can tell it's there. I might just scale it in a little bit more. And I'm also going to make this less deep. So we have these sort of pieces, but that's for the actual arms to attach to. We have these nubs that actually, or this single one that actually connects from here and like slots into a piece here. And then we have these metal divots that go deep in, come out, and then get bolted in. It also does look like this is, in general, a little bit thicker. So I'm going to pull it a bit closer. But another thing to note is, it seems like it hollows out. Like the bolts come in near the ends here, but then after that, these pieces sort of hollow out all the way around. What's a good way to approach that? So I cut this 50, 50, 50, and then 50, 50, 50. I'm thinking if this is going to work. If I delete these pieces, I could in theory extrude this, snap it so that's even, extrude this, snap it so that's even, extrude up to match, extrude up to match, and then we can just sort of even out the rest. So we could, I guess we have to close this off. Something here is not cooperating. There it is. Right? That's... No, that is cooperating too. Weird. Let's just bridge it. For this part, oh, this is what it is. This long one needs to be connected down. So we can extrude this guy, pull it down. We're gonna have to close off this gigantic edge. Bring that down. And then we should be able to just fill a hole here. So that creates this kind of opening for us. I don't believe it goes all the way through. But regardless, we should be able to just snap this to the same height as here, so we can just put this plate across. Don't forget about that guy. And yeah, it's like you don't notice it at all from looking from above, which is nice. I like that. We are going to have to mirror that over though. I think the easiest way to do that would just be to detach this front. Make sure we have all that selected. Extract faces. Put a cut down the middle. Delete that side. Mirror that along X. Merge vertices. Seems to be off a little bit, which is weird. Let's move our pivot somewhere here. Mesh combine. Either way, that should even out the symmetry, so that should be fine now. Merge the vertices. We're going to have to do a little bit of work because we have a long edge directly on top of this short edge. So we'll have to cut this guy up so that they're able to cooperate with each other. Snap that right on top. I don't think that occurs anywhere else here. So oh, we have this long edge too. Snap that on there. Merge verts and fill hole. Okay, cool. Cool, we can make these connection pieces now, which should be pretty quick. In fact, this one looks very similar to one that we already have. It reminds me a lot of this guy, so I'm actually just going to steal this. And I think I said this in the last part, but I love how we're kind of at the point where we can just take parts. I'm just going to modify it a little bit by snipping off the top. Going to fill hole. And we can pretty much just use this and just put it there. It should be a perfect fit. I'm going to put it in a group so it's easier to manipulate. Let's rotate this guy 90 degrees. Rotate it around so the bolts are facing down. And then it's on the right side here. Put the pivot on the bottom, snap it down, and then I'm just going to increase the scale. Since we can't really see exactly where it's going into, I'm just going to have a little bit of fun kind of figuring out how this would work. So I'm going to extrude here. snap this extrusion and then extrude up. Maybe thin that out a little bit. And imagine that's kind of how it's connected on. And I'm just going to duplicate it over. It doesn't really make sense to me to just have one. So I'm going to put one on the other side as well. Just eyeballing it. It should be fine. And then we have these pieces. Kind of seems like metal that's dipped in, comes around and has a bolt going through. It should be pretty easy. I'm just really happy with how this is looking right now. It's exciting to see the keys in the front come together too. Yeah, let's go ahead and get these guys in. I think the easiest way would just be a standard cube. It doesn't seem like anything more complex than just a series of extrudes. Seems to be lined up with the second last key. Just make sure you're always trying to pay attention to where things are relative to the objects around it. If we can look at this and kind of get a visual cue as to where it's lined up, like go ahead and use that to your full advantage. So I'm going to take this face and snap it to the end here. It kind of seems like it's just hanging over a little bit. So I'm going to add a cut. Snap that to the top here. Have that come to the end. Grab this face and have this come to the bottom. Add a cut so we have a point to extrude from, and just sort of pull this guy through. Similar thing where we just cut it. I suppose there's a pretty solid distance here, so I'm just going to try my best to snap that there, extrude this up, extrude this out. Just going to round the edges a bit, and then we're just going to puncture it and put a bolt there using a Boolean. You didn't think we were going to get through a whole part without using a Boolean, did you? Like, it's like the one consistent staple of everything we've done. I'll make that a bit wider. How does that look from here? It looks kind of similar to how the reference had it set up, which is nice. Kind of want to take this edge and snap it up, take that edge and snap it back, and then to make sure that this is even, I can pull this back so it's a bit thicker, pull this up so it's a bit thicker. And then of course merge it all. Let's clean this up very quickly, just because we just did a bunch of stuff without cleaning it up, and I know we're not going to clean up everything until the end, but we should do a little bit at least every couple of pieces, just so it's not a total nightmare when we get to the low poly stage. So just sort of snapping these pieces around. Okay, we're just going to cut a hole here with crates, polygon primitives, or actually I keep forgetting I can just use this tool to bring one in directly on top. Looking at the reference, it is a pretty large bolt. It seems to be taking up pretty much the entire size of the thing. It's kind of weird. It looks like it's like a welded piece of metal. Like it seems like this is attached, But then why would it be bolted down? That doesn't make any sense. I'll probably have this part bolted, and then we can actually attach this. I think that's probably how we'll go about it. So it's kind of the best of both worlds. Freeze transforms, delete history. Go for a Boolean. Clean up, delete history and base objects. Very nice. And go ahead and put this guy here. Cool. Let's go ahead and color this guy. Green seems to be fine since we already have green on that guy. Okay. All right, I did want to weld this down, so maybe a different color wasn't really necessary. But yeah, essentially just, I suppose we could take this cut, squish it, and snap it to one side. We'll do the same on this side when we mirror it over. Add a cut, squish it, put it on this side. And then it's just a matter of, yeah, deleting the faces on the bottom. These guys. Anything where they're touching, right? So, I don't know if I was supposed to delete that one. No. Perfect. Go ahead and mesh combine. Merge vertices, so then these guys should be one. Very nice. Let's just go ahead and mirror that by adding a cut directly in the middle, deleting everything on this side. Freeze transforms, delete history, mirror over X, and then bring this guy into place, rotate him a little bit, and make sure it's all merged up. And yeah, just go ahead and delete that. So that's our keyboard sort of laid out. We have the spacebar attached properly. The only thing we're missing, of course, is like these guys, but we haven't done those for any of them. Who knows? We might have to readjust the spacing once we put the arms into place, but for now, like comparing that to this, for example, the spacing seems good to me. It seems like the spacing's there. Once the arms start to fill it in, it's going to look kind of crazy. We also do have to raise this bottom part quite a bit, and we'll start to get a lot more stuff going on. Like when we look at the space between the lowest part and where it's actually cut, it's kind of like here almost. So we'll have to do some adjustments to this plate. Actually, this model just seems a lot different than the references. Let me get a better example of that. Maybe not. Something like this, where it's like maybe like 1.5 inches-ish between it. Either way, we're going to have to raise up the bottom. Just excuse the bolts for a minute, but it's probably going to be more like that than anything. How that affects this side, I'm not 100% sure, but we'll have to do some cleanup. But anyways, like it's really starting to take form now. Looking really good. Thank you guys for watching this part. I think this is a good spot to end off after doing that. Yep, we're right about on time. So thank you guys for watching. Yeah, we're getting into some cool stuff here. Next time we are going to tackle the, I don't know if I should call these arms or keys or teeth or what's the best sort of description, but we're going to be tackling these guys. I think I'm just going to stick to arms. Yeah, we'll get to those guys next time. And once the arms are done, like, it's literally just our little connection of knickknacks. I suppose I did say I wanted to have, where is it? This like weird keyboard attachment on the front. But I think I'm going to add that to the maybe category at this point. We might get around to this. I think it would be cool. I think it would make ours stand out quite a bit. I do like actually how it makes the back look like this kind of thing is pretty sweet. But we'll see. We'll see when we get there. I think it looks like a pretty simple shape, but it adds a lot of cool shape language to it. Anyways, for now, that'll do it. Typewriter's looking like it's definitely on the right track. And yeah, I'll catch you guys in the next part. Thanks for watching.